Everybody like, hey, are you ready to go? Ready to go. Everybody like, hey.
Alright, so what is good, y'all? Soul here, and welcome back to my story mode. So, obviously you've seen the title, you've seen the thumbnail. I've got a big old question for y'all. Are we en route right now to get Xenoblade Chronicles 3 news? Now, this is not supposed to be any kind of news channel or anything like that. If I do find news that I want to cover because I find it important to me personally, I will. But just saying, this is not going to be a huge news channel unless it's something related to something I am just super whatever like into. You know what I mean? Like, for example, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. That is definitely something that I'm gonna want to cover because I have, for the most part, played every game in the series thus far. I have only just not completed Xenoblade Chronicles X, but we'll talk about that later. So anyway, why am I asking this question? Okay, so I don't know if you guys are on Twitter or anything like that. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. Hopefully you are, and you've seen the news every now and again about how Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was definitely in production, but things had to go on a halt, right? So, let's talk about what set everybody off first. For starters, the website for Xenoblade Chronicles apparently went under some kind of construction, or it completely just went off the grid. Like, when you go on the website, there's not much there anymore, and you can't do anything. And so, everybody's assuming, okay, well, obviously that's got to come back. That's a whole ass website for Xenoblade. There's no way they're not gonna bring that back. But why would they take it down to begin with? Well, everybody lost their shit because that means that there's a good chance that they're probably preparing for the next stage of things, which would be Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which we already know for a fact exists. So I guess if you want to do the math in your heads, a busted website plus Xenoblade Chronicles 3 existence means very close Xenoblade Chronicles 3 news. And so I guess I think, again, you guys can correct me if you know anything more, please let me know. However, apparently we have some kind of September 7th to 9th dates. I can't remember which date it was. I tend not to look too hard into these things because I don't want to get excited over nothing, okay? That is the worst, all right? I try to keep my expectations kind of reasonable. So, you know, hate me if you will, but I try not to get too crazy and too riled up about these things, believe it or not. Actually, that's a huge lie. But either way, I know we have some kind of September 7th or September 9th date for something, whether that means that the news is coming or that the website is just simply coming back. We don't know what that means. However, people seem to believe that we are in direct month now, because for the last couple of years that we've gotten directs, usually during September time, we have some kind of direct en route. And now, the thing about that is it's kind of weird, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but it's kind of weird because it's supposed to be a quote-unquote direct month, but because of COVID, that put everything to a halt, which is why we didn't get one last year at all. So it's kind of questionable whether or not that's going to lead to anything, but whatever the case may be, whatever. Anyway, so we need to bring up the fact also that this is not the first time that we heard about Xenoblade 3 at all. Like, we need to remember that apparently, according to a interview with one of the actresses, apparently, I don't remember the name of her, but you guys can probably pull her up or whatever. Apparently, according to her in that interview, we were apparently supposed to get news on the new Xenoblade Chronicles 3 quite some time ago, but obviously, because of COVID and things like that, there was no good way to get it out, and then a lot of big releases came out, and they didn't want it to get overshadowed and things like that, so they decided to put a halt on things and maybe wait till closer to completion before revealing things, which in a way kind of works out in our favor, because assuming something doesn't exist is a lot easier to swallow for when it does officially get revealed, and then it's usually a lot closer. You know, I mean, sometimes it doesn't work out the way we wanted to, like freaking Paper Mario the Origami King, where it turns out to be absolute dog doo-doo, but for the most part, it is at least a little bit nicer to hear that a game is on its way and it's very close to release, so that we have something to get excited about within the next 2 to 3 months before its initial release. So apparently this game is supposed to be very close to completion, or at least around the time of the interview it was, which was, I believe, if I'm correct, back in April. Okay. I will find the source if I can, and I'll put it in the description for you guys, because I'm not trying to be that dude, but there's a good chance I might also get lazy, so we'll see what happens. But apparently that it's close to completion and it's around the corner, so it seems kind of crazy, but then again, you look at the timeline and it's like, okay, maybe it is time for another Xenoblade. But it's so crazy to have all three big Xenoblade games on Switch, like all three numbered ones. That would be kind of crazy. Either way, so she didn't give much on the interview other than it's apparently close to completion, and that this next game is supposed to take place sometime after 2, like it's a direct sequel to the second game, and that there are going to be some familiar faces every now and again. Whatever that means, I don't know, but if it takes place too long after, that means that we know who's surviving and we know who's not, so we'll play it by ear and go from there. So we'll figure it out as we go. So now I wanted to talk about what we should probably end up expecting from this announcement, or this conversation that was had, for anybody that's looking forward to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, because I can't lie to you, Chief, that would be pretty fire to get really close. But here, like, I'll give you guys an idea of my expectations, and we'll see what you guys think here, right? So, like I said earlier, for starters, everyone seems to believe that we're going to be getting a Nintendo Direct sometime in the next 2 to 3 weeks, because we got that September 7th, September 9th date for something. We don't know what it is. However, before 2020, we were getting Directs regularly in the month of September to announce a lot of big things. And so that's why it would make a lot of sense for us to get a Direct this month with Xenoblade Chronicles 3 at the center of things. Like, usually they have one big reveal that's gonna overshadow everything else. It's gonna be that one final thing that overshadows almost everything else in a way, and that's gonna take up most of the Direct, and it would make sense for it to be Xenoblade Chronicles 3 if it truly is that close and it's the next big Nintendo shindig. You get what I'm getting at? And so, you know, it's a valid feeling, especially when we have the repetitive nature of getting Directs in September. But here's the thing, though. We got a lot of announcements at E3, so many that we're still lingering into them within these next coming months, okay? We just got Sonic, you know, we got WarioWare coming next week, I believe, or sometime in the next week or so. We've got Metroid Dread, which they're pushing like crazy, alright? So, unless they've got Xenoblade and a bunch of other new things to reveal, it feels too good to be true for them to have a Direct focused on all the big things that we haven't heard about yet. You know, like Splatoon 3, Bayonetta 3, and Metroid Prime 4. That just seems kind of excessive, you know? And it's never really happened like that, which is why I'm kind of doubtful. I'm pressing X to doubt right now that we're getting such a huge Direct with so much information. And, I mean, you could say that there's a good chance we may get Xenoblade Chronicles 3 as the center of the Direct, but get news on pretty much nothing else, which would be kind of weird to have like a whole Direct with a bunch of other not mainline announcements only for them to purposely get overshadowed by Xenoblade. Like, that doesn't really seem fair. Usually when we have a big game like that, there's some kind of balance. We have to have some kind of balance with those announcements and those Directs. Otherwise, everything else gets overshadowed and forgotten about. I mean, again, a dramatic take, I know, but there's already plenty of games that I've forgotten about because I was simply just so excited for Breath of the Wild 2 that I don't even remember half of E3's announcements. So, just saying, it can happen, and you would not want that to happen, especially if you're advertising games that aren't IPs. You know, that's really messed up, and I'm sure they know better than to do something like that. So that's why I don't think that we're gonna have a Direct, a full-on Nintendo Direct with only information, with main information on Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Now, I may sound crazy, but hear me out. Think about it this way. And while I don't think a Direct is likely, I think we are going to get some kind of big announcement, some kind of huge focused announcement that's going to work something like a Fire Emblem Direct, okay? Think about it. We've had a multitude of different Fire Emblem Directs. We've had a multitude of like a Splatoon Directs and stuff like that, you know? So if we are getting something that big, it would only make sense to have an announcement separate from that of a Nintendo Direct that talks about just that game and is able to focus on everything that that game has to offer. Again, if the game really is that close, why it would make the most sense for this announcement to just be solely about Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and then maybe down the line when it gets closer and we do have an initial, like, some kind of inevitable Direct, that's when it starts talking about even more stuff that we didn't know about. DLC, extra content, whatever. We don't know what it's going to bring to the table. Maybe it's going to open up some story things. I don't know. But it would make the most sense to have a Xenoblade Chronicles Direct solely focused on the third game. Okay? And honestly, it wouldn't be too crazy for them to also throw in Xenoblade Chronicles X at the beginning as the big port that's going to come within the next couple of months, maybe around Christmas time. Just something to hold us over until we get our hands on Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which I know for a fact, if they do announce it, it's probably not going to be here until at least summer of 2022, like at the latest. Okay, if it really is that close. And that's, again, that's assuming that we get it announced. If we do get it announced, that sucker's coming out like summer next year, max. But it wouldn't be a game focused, an IP focused Direct without having other things thrown in. You know, with Fire Emblem Directs, we always got like Fire Emblem Heroes stuff announced first, you know, and that stuff would come up. So I think that if we are to get an announcement, it's going to be a strictly like Xenoblade related Direct, because they would not want to diverge any kind of attention from it or use it to diverge attention from anything else in a Direct. That would not make any sense. So that's where I'm sitting with that, and that's what I believe is going to happen. We don't know yet, but it would be fire. Okay? And so if we are to get the Xenoblade Direct, if it's really that close to finished, then yeah, that sucker's gonna be at least 30 minutes long with Xenoblade Chronicles X and all of its new features, and then we're gonna get like another like maybe 10 minutes of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It's gonna show off a little bit of the world, maybe a glimpse of the story, and just like a little bit of general gameplay. Maybe one big trailer. Because they'll probably set up some kind of situation where we'll get more information on that during a Direct. But I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say because I can't remember if we've ever had a Xenoblade Direct, but I think it would be very smart of them to do one for this situation, especially because Xenoblade Chronicles 2 did so freaking well. It did so amazing. So it would be foolish of them not to, you know? So we're probably going to get a ton of information, maybe like see at least 2 or 3 of the main characters. Maybe we'll get an idea of the battle system. I don't know. But there's no way we're walking away without some big information. And at the very least, I expect a trailer that's going to show off the characters, or at least like 2 of the main characters, maybe 3, and some general gameplay of the battle system, which we know is going to work the same, but it's always going to have some kind of twist to it, like Xenoblade always does, you know? Xenoblade 1 had its own, obviously it had its own thing, it was the first of its kind, and then Xenoblade Chronicles X, well, oh yeah, that had its own situation with the timed button presses, and then Xenoblade Chronicles 2 emphasized on that and turned that into like quick time events and things like that. So with Xenoblade Chronicles 3, we don't know what we're going to get with that kind of situation. It's going to be a whole different ball game. Maybe it's using the exact same situation as Xenoblade Chronicles 2. There's really no way to know until we know, but it should be a lot of interesting information. Okay. So my next thing here is simply that I guess I probably should have mentioned this earlier. I kind of did, but just the fact that because it's been about, when you really think about it and you look at it, it's been about 4 years, right? Since we got the last Xenoblade Chronicles game, or at least the last full brand new Xenoblade Chronicles game. And so you look at it and it's like, okay, 4 years is actually a very decent amount of time. However, for an open world game like Xenoblade, it's kind of hard to believe that they could get so much done in such a short amount of time, especially when I'm sure that they had at least a good quarter of the crew working on Xenoblade Chronicles 1's port, or remaster, rather. And so I have to imagine that they were working on that for a minute. They had that ready to go, and then they finally got the full team back, which is why they decided to put the website under construction and put everybody in a panic here, because they probably finally got the full team back after remastering Xenoblade Chronicles 1, and then they were able to get to work on the second one, okay? And I'm not gonna knock the work they put in the Xenoblade Chronicles 1's port, because they not only had a full-ass remaster with way better graphics and things like that, and I think a couple more side quests, and just a lot of like quality of life stuff, but they also had the extra episode with Shulkin, what's her name? It's been so long, I can't remember her name, whatever. They had a lot going on with that. So, you know, I'm sure that took a little bit of time, especially after Xenoblade Chronicles 2. However, I'm sure that once Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was done, they got right to work immediately on that other port, which means they had at least half to most of the team working on Xenoblade Chronicles 3, while the others were working on that other port that we got back in 2019? Was that 2018 or 19? I can't remember. It feels so long ago. But either way, once they got the full team back, it was go time, and they probably made it happen in a very insane amount of time. So hopefully it's as quality as we all hope it to be, and we're glad that Xenoblade is still getting love and getting worked on. It's good to know that it exists. That's all I'm saying. So that's where I'm at with that, okay? And again, I don't expect it to this Xenoblade Chronicles 3 supposed port or supposed release to come out until at least summer, like late summer, like late summer, maybe early fall at the latest, okay? Because they're not gonna, if it gets released too close to Splatoon 3 or Breath of the Wild 2, because Breath of the Wild 2 is most likely a winter release, while Splatoon 3 is most likely a summer release, because Splatoon is always a summer release. I'm pretty sure it was a summer release for the first game. So with that in mind, I'm thinking it's gonna come out smack dab in the middle. I truly do believe that it's gonna come before Breath of the Wild 2, but sometime after Splatoon 3. Okay, we're gonna play the crap out of Splatoon 3, and then we'll get our little magic happenings with Xenoblade Chronicles 3 for a while, and that'll last us until Breath of the Wild 2. I think that's kind of how I feel it in my gut that that's how Nintendo would probably play it. I could be absolutely wrong, but we'll see how it happens. If these dates come up right now and it goes bonkers, we'll see how it happens. We'll see how it plays out. Okay. So that's pretty much all I really have to say on this. I know this was a much shorter video. Overall, I do think that if there is anything that they are going to announce, a Xenoblade Chronicles export is on the way. There's no way in hell. There's also a good chance that I didn't even think about, that they sent the team right after Xenoblade Chronicles 1 to start that port work for Xenoblade Chronicles X, okay? Because that was right in between, and it was a great holdover. That was an awesome game, completely underrated, and I'm super sad that I never got to actually finish it, because I did not know how to get my hands on a skill, because it was so frustrating. But god damn it if those things weren't so cool, bro. Anyway, sorry, I digress. Whatever the case may be, I hope to make a hopes and wishes video on this soon, and so stick around if you want to see that, because I've got a lot of hopes and wishes for Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and Xenoblade Chronicles as a series going forward, because there's no way they're going to stop at 3 if this does really, really well. So we'll talk about that when we talk about that. However, for now, I'm going to pass the mic to you guys. I want to hear what you guys think about the possibility of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 on its way in a couple of days. Tell me everything you guys think in the comment section below, because you know that I'm always down there with you. Do not ever doubt that. Please, 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 please. So that's going to do it from me. I want to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this. And with that, I'm the outro. Thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!